बिहारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव कुञ्जबिहारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्जबिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधारी जय राधा गिरिधारी जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा गौरनीताय जय गौरनीताय जय गौरनीताय जय गौरनीताय जय गौरनीताय जय गौरनीताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरस्ता श्री ऐसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामचार्य शिलारिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा गिरिधारी भगवान की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की जय श्री श्री गौर निताई की जय निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga all glories to Srila Prabhupada all glories to Srila Gurudev Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody to this session this morning. We will continue to read from Prabhupada Lilamrita. Screen. Screen seen, everybody? All okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. All right.
Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Suddenly, the old derelict returns, announcing his entrance. Havaya. He's carrying something. He maneuvers his way through the group straight to the back of the temple where the Swami is sitting. He opens the toilet room door, puts 2 rolls of bathroom tissue inside, closes the door, and then turns to the sink, sits some paper towels on top of it, and puts 2 more rolls of bathroom tissue and some more paper rolls under the sink. He then stands and turns around towards the Swami and the audience. The Swami is looking at him and asks, "What is this?" The bum is silent now. He has done his work. Prabhupada begins to laugh, thanking his visitor, who is now moving towards the door. "Thank you. Thank you very much." The bum exits. "Just see," Prabhupada now addresses his congregation. "It is a natural tendency to give some service. Just see, he is not in order, but he thought that here is something. Let me give some service. Just see how automatically it comes. This is natural." The young men in the audience look at one another. This is really far out. First, the chanting with the brass cymbals, the Swami looking like Buddha and talking about Krishna and chanting, and now this crazy stuff with the bum. But the Swami stays cool. He's really cool, just sitting on the floor like he's not afraid of anything, just talking his philosophy about the soul and us becoming saints, and even the old drunk becoming a saint. Almost After almost an hour, the dog still barks and the kids still squeal. Sorry. Prabhupada is asking his hearers, who are only beginners in spiritual life, to become totally dedicated preachers of Krishna consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, you will find that anyone who preaches the gospel of Bhagavad Gita to the people of the world is the most dear, the dearest person to Krishna. Therefore, it is our duty to preach the principles of this Bhagavad Gita to make people Krishna conscious. Prabhupada can't wait to tell them, even if they aren't ready. It's too urgent. The world needs Krishna conscious preachers. People are suffering for want of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, each and every one of us should be engaged in the preaching work of Krishna consciousness for the benefit of the whole world. Lord Chaitanya, whose picture is in front of our store, has very nicely preached the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. The Lord says, "Just take my orders, all of you, and become a spiritual master." Lord Chaitanya gives the order that in every country you go and preach Krishna consciousness. So if we take this missionary work to preach Bhagavad Gita as it is, without interpretation and without any material motives behind it, as it is, then Krishna says, "It shall be done." We should not have any attraction for worldly activities. Otherwise, we can't have Krishna. But it doesn't mean that we should be inimical to the people of the world. No. It is our duty to give them the highest instruction, that you become Krishna conscious. And we'll perhaps conclude here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yadvaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Parahamsyam Ekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyamavishkritam Tat Shrinvan Supathan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. So we will continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 16. Chapter title: The Characteristics of King Puranjan. Sabha Chatvararatyabhir Akridayatanapanah Chaityadhaja Patakabhir Yuktam Vidruma Vedibhi. Sabha Chatvararatyabhir Akridayatanapanah Chaityadhaja Patakabhir Yuktam Vidruma Vedibhi. Sabha Chatvararatyabhir Akridayatanapanah Chaityadhaja Patakabhir Yuktam Vidruma Vedibhi. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I am trying.
Yes, Prabhu.
Shobhachattara Rathavi Akridayatanapanah Chaitadhaja Patakabhir Yuktam Vidrum Vidibhi. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sabha Chattwara Rathabhi Akridayatanapanai Chaitya Dhaja Patakabhir Yuktam Vidrum Vedibhi. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Okay. Look at the synonyms. Sabha, assembly houses. Chatvara, squares. Rathya-bhihi, by streets. Akrida, ayatan, gambling houses. Apanahi, by shops. Chaitya, resting places. Dhwaja patakabhihi, with flags and festoons. Yuktam, decorated. Vidrum, without trees. Vedibhihi, with platforms. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In that city, there were many assembly houses, street crossings, streets, restaurants, gambling houses, markets, resting places, flags, festoons, and festival and beautiful parks. All these surrounded the city. Purport. In this way, the capital is described. In the capital, there are assembly houses and many squares, many street crossings, avenues and streets, many gambling places, markets, and places of rest, all decorated with flags and festoons. The squares are surrounded with railings and are devoid of trees. The heart of the body can be compared to the assembly house, for the living entity is within the heart along with the Paramatma. And thus the heart is the center of all remembrance, forgetfulness, and deliberation. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matah smritirjnanamohanam cha. In the body, the eyes, ears, and nose are different places of attraction for sense enjoyment. And the streets for going hither and thither may be compared to different types of air blowing within the body. The yogic process for controlling the air within the body and the different nerves is called Shushumna, the path of liberation. The body is also a resting place because when the living entity becomes fatigued, he takes rest within the body. The palms and the soles of the feet are compared to flags and festoons. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सभा चत्वररत्याभिराक्रीडायतनापनहि चैत्यध्वजपातकाभिर्युक्तं विद्रुमवेदिभिः. So this particular chapter, as we have been hearing from previous speakers, describes, as the chapter is called, the characteristics of King Puranjan. And as has been described earlier, Narad Muni had to come up with this allegorical idea or statement. Why did he have to come up with this? Prabhuji touched upon it yesterday. Is whilst we see that the Prachetas were being instructed by Lord Shiva, the father was obviously engaged in good activities. He was doing karma, he was doing karma kanda. And in today's context, sometimes we should be very careful to understand it in the right way, that doing karma kanda is not bad. It's good. And why is it good? Because most of the population today are doing vikarma. So they are not following any rules, regulations, nothing. Even for sense gratification, they are not following rules. What to talk about, some higher purpose or some pious activities. Forget devotional service. So most of the people are there. So if somebody is trying to follow karma kandi, even though it may not be completely bona fide, even if it is not, in the way that it should be under the right guidance, it is still better than not following anything. So in that context, here if we see Maharaj Prachina Parishat, he was not doing anything wrong. He was doing the right thing. He was following the Vedas. He told his son also, the sons also were given the right instruction as a father should give. Right? But the purpose of the human life was not being fulfilled or not being realized by him through the activities that he was doing. He was doing good. His intent was good, but his intent was only limited to the bodily concept. Right? So it is not wrong, it's not bad, it is good, but it is limited. Just like we follow the process of bhakti to realize the Lord in 3 features. So somebody who's following the Gyanis who follow or who only go up to the Brahma Jyoti level and they're happy to merge, it's not that they're wrong. They are having only a limited conception of the Supreme Lord. So that's why their aspiration is only for that much. So it's not wrong, but it is just an incomplete. It is an incomplete realization. So similarly, following the Vedas and doing karma kanda is good, but it is just a small good. It is incomplete. I mean, it's not totally complete. Why not complete? Because it doesn't help us fulfill the purpose of this human life, which is a gift to us from the Supreme Lord. So this is very important to understand. Now, if somebody is doing good, why would somebody go and tell him to do something better? I mean, of course, people can do it. But if somebody knows I'm doing good and you come and tell me, oh, this is better, if I feel I'm really doing good, I will not really think much about it. I'm happy with what I'm doing. But a devotee of the Lord, and specifically when we talk about a pure devotee like Narad Muni, his job is not to just make people happy. Like normally when we talk about doing good to society or, doing something of value, what is the purpose behind it? The purpose behind it is to make people happy, that they should feel nice, they should feel, content, satisfied with either the service we are providing or the facilities we are giving. But a pure devotee of the Lord is not just interested in making people happy. It's not that they don't want to make people happy, but they are not interested only in making people happy. Why? Because the happiness is temporary. What is the point doing so much effort and giving something to somebody which is temporary? It just doesn't make sense, right? But if we have the ability to give something that is permanent, that is at least long term, rather than something that is short term, what would we prefer to do? We would give somebody that is a facility or service that can benefit that person long term. We would prefer to do that, right? We would prefer to give that. And that is precisely the purpose of a pure devotee of the Lord like Narad Muni. So it is not that Prachina Parishad was doing something wrong, but by what he was doing, he wouldn't have achieved the goal of, getting this human life. So Narad Muni stepped in. Now imagine Narad Muni had to take extra effort to preach to Maharaj Prachina Parishad. And why is that? We see even around us, right? It's not easy to preach to somebody, especially when that person is materially well settled. I'm sure everybody would have their perspective, but would in principle agree that when somebody is having a very good material condition, they've got a lot of money, they've got a house, they've got a car, they've got good family, children are okay, relatives are okay, no court cases going on, and all those kind of, and generally fine. They are okay. So they want to enjoy. They are always looking for opportunities to enjoy. So when some celebrity comes and does a concert, they would spend $400, $500 a ticket to go. Why? Because they want maja. They want maja, ranjan. Right? So when we say that word ranjan means what? Entertainment. The word is used as another word, which is manoranjan. So ranjan means have fun, have pleasure, enjoy. So they would go to any extent to enjoy. But when there is an opportunity to engage in some service or some festival in the temple, which is free, they would have 10 reasons why they cannot make it. And they feel perfectly legitimate reasons. So this is the situation. So even if we tell them that this is it, this is good for you, this is this, they will listen, they will nod, they will smile. But when it comes to doing something, they will completely reject that idea, because they've already decided what they want to do, how they want to enjoy, why everything is well settled. As opposed to somebody who is going through a lot of material problems, a lot of health issues, family issues, financial issues, something or the other is coming. So that person cannot on his own find relief or cannot mitigate those problems. So when he meets a devotee and they say, oh, you should chant, or you come to the temple, you'll at least feel peaceful. What do you think? How do you think they would react? They would say, yes, okay, come, I'll come. Why? Because they want relief. It can come from anywhere. So for somebody who is going through these distresses to come to this level of doing some service is a little bit easier than somebody who's well settled. It doesn't mean that somebody is well settled who doesn't, he feels he doesn't need, but actually he needs, and a devotee knows that. So when somebody is well settled, to give him the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is an extremely difficult task. And for that person to hear and be convinced, to be able to put that into action is even more difficult. True or no? So now you can imagine the task that Narad Muni had. It was such a difficult task. Maharaj Prachina Barishad was not an ordinary person. He comes in the lineage of such an exalted devotee. So, and he is well settled. So to unsettle this person and take him from karma kanda to bhakti was a big task. So Narad Muni, he had to devise a new strategy of telling him or giving him the philosophy in a way that he doesn't feel, it's very sensitive. He doesn't feel that, oh, Narad Muni is poking me. Excuse me. So he gives this whole allegory. He has to create this whole story in a way that Maharaj can understand. At the end of the day, he can actually realize what Narad Muni is saying, and why to realize, so that ultimately he can follow. He can see the need or the importance of this instruction, and he can follow. So Narad Muni had to spend so many chapters, 25, 26, 27, 28, to give the story. It's all story chapter. And whatever Narad Muni is describing has got a deeper meaning. So on the superficial level, he is giving this story, but on a deeper level, it is something else. So after chapter 29, Maharaj Barishat, he hears Narad Muni. Then he says, what? I have heard everything, but I have not understood anything. So you please explain. So after that, Narad Muni actually decodes. So all the story is coded story. After that, he's going to decode that story and explain. Of course, to make it easy for us to understand, Prabhupada in the purport has already started decoding. Right? So in the purport, we see in this particular verse how Prabhupada has decoded all the it's the description that Narad Muni is giving. So just to slightly go back, we understand that Puranjan, and as it has been discussed, what does Puranjan means? It comes from Pur and a Ranjan. So Ranjan, as we just discussed, is enjoy, and Pur is a place. In this case, it's the body. So Pur is usually a place, like we have Nagpur, Kolhapur, Sholapur. So all this place, it's a place. The Pur means place. So a person who wants to enjoy in a particular place is Puranjan, specifically this body. So if you see first, in a few verses, it was mentioned that this king Puranjan, he was searching for an appropriate place to stay, but he couldn't find anything. He was not very satisfied. And then finally, after searching for many places, he found this place in Bharatvarsh. And this place was nicely fortified by 9 gates. So this is obviously, as we understand, it is the human body. So why did he feel that this place is ideal? Because in every other place, which is every other species of life, he could not find the purpose of human life can be fulfilled. It's only when he came to the human form of life, he understood that, yeah, this is the place where I can fulfill the purpose of my human existence. So that's why he came to Bharatvarsh. And in that place, these descriptions are given. So here it is mentioned that there are assembly houses, streets, restaurants, just like any city has got these places. We understand, whether it's in Auckland or any other place, all of these places exist. There are gambling houses, markets, resting places, festoons, parks, etc. Now, all of these elements, these places, they have a significance. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes that the heart of the body is compared to the assembly house. So assembly house is like in the local community, the Maoris, they have the assembly house, okay? Marae. And it is very sacred. Why is it sacred? Because a lot of important community matters, discussions, decisions, which are benefit to the community are taken there. And it has got some spiritual significance as well. So it is very sacred, Marae. So like that, here it is said that this assembly house is like the heart. Why? Because the soul and the super soul, they reside there. So that's why it's the assembly house. All the important things or the important center is the assembly house. Then Prabhupada obviously gives the 15:15, which is the most often quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada throughout all the books that he has written. And then it is said that in the body, the eyes, ears, nose are different places of attraction for sense enjoyment. Just like here, we've got gambling houses, then restaurants, all those things. And the streets for going here and there are compared to the different types of air that's blowing within the body. And the body is also a resting place, because when we become tired, we take rest within the body, or when we go to sleep, basically. So it's a soul that is resting within this palace to revive and to do more activities after the rest is completed. And then the palms and soles of the feet are compared to flags and festoons. It's like the ornamentation plus these are elements to do activities ultimately to achieve the human form of life, or to achieve the goal of human form of life. So now we understand that all of these examples had to be thought very creatively by Narad Muni and presented to Puranjan. And that is exactly the role of preachers in this movement. In fact, in Prabhupada Lilamrita also we were reading how Prabhupada wants everybody to preach this message. It is so urgent. And even if somebody even acknowledges or does some little menial service, Prabhupada is very appreciative. So that is basically the quality of a preacher. While he wants to give people the highest philosophy and is always looking at opportunities to give that, because situation changes, people's mentality change, time, place, circumstance always keeps changing. So the preacher is always looking at different ways to give the same message and creatively give it in a way that is palatable to the people who accept it. So this is something very important. Now, why preaching is so important? Of course, we know a lot of verses in Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavatam, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that we know of. But primarily, if we think about it, why is preaching such an important activity? Because this is the only activity that pleases the Supreme Lord the maximum. Why do you think it pleases him the maximum, this preaching activity? Why does the Lord get so pleased if somebody does that for him as an instrument? Question.
Because the Lord wants us to go back to Him, so it is the way the people can get the opportunity to go back to Him. And so Lord desires us to be part of that activity by which all the living beings can go back to Godhead. And it is the only process by which they can go back.
Yes. Any other perspective or thoughts?
Hare Krishna Vrodandotram. Sorry
Krishna.
for being late. It's just to distribute others so the others also can get the benefit. Not to be a selfish person, to distribute to others so everybody can take advantage. So much so that it can be distributed to everyone.
Okay. Yes. That's perspective, definitely. Anything else? Something more deeper. Yeah. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani cha Arjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu veda na kaschana. Which verse is this? Anybody? So Krishna says, I know everything that is happening in the past, present, future. But my anxiety is that nobody knows me. So Krishna is actually, like we say that we are feeling anxious, we are feeling stressed. Does Krishna feel anxiety?
No.
Does Krishna feel anxiety? He is the Supreme Lord. Yes, no? So this particular verse that I had just quoted from Bhagavad Gita, it is, Acharyas explained that Krishna is also anxious, but his anxiety is not like our anxiety. He is not stressed like us, but he is anxious. Why is he anxious? Out of love. His anxiety is out of love. Our anxiety is out of enjoyment or the propensity to enjoy. And why is he anxious? He is anxious because he doesn't want us to suffer. And he sees that we are not listening to him or we are not following the right path to achieve the human form of life and get benefit. He sees we are not doing it, so he feels anxious. Now, because he feels anxious, and when he sees that somebody else, another of his children, is trying their best to relieve him of the anxiety, whether they are successful or not, doesn't matter, but they are trying their best to relieve him of his anxiety, how do you think he's going to feel? They're just desiring to do. So he will feel ecstatic. Of course, in one way, Krishna is always ecstatic. But specifically because he sees somebody trying to relieve him of his misery, he showers extra special mercy on that person. And that's why preaching or preachers are very dear to the Supreme Lord. And he confirms that in Bhagavad Gita 1868 as well, right? Special mercy. So this special mercy is exhibited how? By empowering that preacher. Whatever the preacher does somehow starts manifesting into something. And the example of that is there, right from Narad Muni to all the different devotees we have or we see in Bhagavatam, and even personalities like all the acharyas in our sampradaya, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they are all empowered souls. We can't even think or comprehend how they did what they did. It is not humanly possible. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he hardly slept. He wrote the maximum number of books and he had a big family. It is inconceivable. Forget Krishna's activities. We can't even comprehend the activities of acharyas whose lifestyle we have historical accounts of. Even that is inconceivable to us. Srila Prabhupada's lifestyle, okay, which is also inconceivable. At that age, how can he just go there? How can he just face so many failures? And how can he continue? We would have been on somewhere. So these are inconceivable. But how did their efforts, how did they become successful? Because they were empowered by the Lord. That's how the special mercy of the Lord, who is showered on people who try to relieve him of his anxiety. And that is one of the most important aspects of a person who's trying to preach. Of course, in one way, as Mahaprabhu says, everybody should preach in some form or the other. So if we look at King Prachina Barhi's life, he was actually a Puranjana. He was a person who's trying to enjoy in his. Why was he Puranjan? Because his goal in life was Manoranjan. So Puranjan, his goal is Manoranjan. Manoranjan means mind. Man is mind, and Ranjan means enjoy. I want to enjoy and feel happy. एकदम बहुत enjoy कर रहा है मुझे बस. People have this goal. The goal of life is I should just enjoy. I should just feel happy in whatever I do. Only that thing I will do. So their main purpose is Manoranjan. So this Puranjan, his main idea was Manoranjan. Now, to have happiness is not bad, but to have happiness or to find happiness where there is actually none is nothing. It's not very intelligent, and that is a problem. Just like we see the example of Maharaj Dhritarashtra. Now we know what that means, what his name means. Dhritarashtra, somebody who holds on to the Rashtra, to the kursi, to the gaddi, to the power. So he was, although he was, we know the history that he was the eldest born and ideally he should have been the king, but because of his disability, he could not. So he could not, but his mind never left that. Right from his childhood, he was attached. He was just thinking somehow or the other, I want this, I want this. I was so attached. He was lusty. So when he got the first opportunity to become the king after Pandu, went off to the, not before when he went to the forest, remember, he was given the curse. So that's the first time he got that first taste of becoming the king by sitting on the throne on behalf of Pandu. And that, when you are attached to something and you just get one drop of that, what happens to it? It becomes very pakka, very firm. And that's when he got attached, and the first perception came to his mind that this is mine. Actually, it was lawfully mine, but it was taken away. Anyway, then Pandu, after he died, he became the formal king, but he was only a caretaker king until Yudhishthir becomes major and he can hand over the kingdom. And that's when because of his attachment, all of these treacheries that was done by his son, he supported. Went on till the whole battle happened. After the battle was over, all his sons were killed. Yudhishthir, out of just courtesy, told him to come and stay with him. Not muted.
Yeah.
Abhachan Prabhu, can you just check? So after the war, Yudhishthir told him, okay, you come and stay with us. You were the king. Although I have won the kingdom, you are still the king. Now, Yudhishthira told him, out of courtesy, etiquette. But actually, Dhritarashtra had no ability to be the king, nor did he deserve to be the king. And after his own sons were killed by this person, by the Pandavas, he didn't even have any shame to consider or reconsider that. Yudhishthira said, he also agreed. He said, he thought that this is another opportunity. My sons have died, so what? I have lost the war, so what? I still have the opportunity to become the king and enjoy. Manoranjan. This is the problem. And then he came and he was like that. So Yudhishthira was ruling, but he was just the showpiece. And he kept doing that. He kept doing that. So you can imagine, he was not morose that his 100 sons were killed. He was more happy that finally he got another opportunity to be king. Can you imagine? Just think the mentality, how degraded somebody can be. So he came, he was happy that, okay, finally, at least I can sit on the throne. And so this is the enjoying propensity of Puranjan, the Dhritarashtra mentality. We are attached and we just want Manoranjan. So Puranjan wants Manoranjan. What is wrong with that? Sense gratification. It will not achieve the human life. So what does Narad Muni do? He does not want Puranjan to have only Manoranjan. He goes there to tell him this story, to give him these allegories, to make him understand the futile nature of this material world and how risky it is. He's going to say in the future, in the next verses, that this is a very, very risky place, dangerous place. Today you may be well situated. Tomorrow, who knows? You can have a great fall and it's very difficult for you to stand up again. And he'll come to that. So Narad Muni, he does not want Puranjan to have only Manoranjan. So what does he go? He gives him this story and ultimately wants him to change his activities from Karma Kanda to Bhakti. So he gives Puranjan or King Prachina Barhishrat an opportunity to not just have Manoranjan, but to have his eyes anointed with Premanjan. Premanjana Churita. So Narad Muni is giving him the opportunity to anoint his eyes with Premanjan. So Puranjan should not just be happy with Manoranjan. He should have the opportunity to have Prema Anjan. Premanjan. You can also say that word can also be taken as Ranjan, enjoyment. But enjoyment out of connectivity with our love for the Supreme Lord, not just to please our material mind. So Puranjan, don't just engage in Manoranjan. Engage in Premanjan. Manoranjan is by default there as part of that package. And that's why Narad Muni had to do all of this. Now it is for us to decide, do we want Premanjan or we want Manoranjan and become Puranjan? Decision is yours. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. Any comments, questions, additions? Most welcome.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Oh, what a wonderful explanation of this text system. Beautifully explained how this Manoranjan turns into Premaranjan. And Narad Muni, as a great teacher, he took this way so that in a very simple way, even a great king like Prachin Varishar can understand how difficult is the material life when he was really satisfied with the material activities, what he was enjoying. So Narad Muni, as a great teacher, he was trying to turn Manoranjan into Premaranjan, and that explanation you have given such nicely. Dhritarashtra is one of the example, as we can see, even after losing the battle and his all 100 sons, he could not change his attitude. And Vidur has to come in between to separate his nature from this Manoranjan, so that at least he can live that way of Manoranjan towards Premaranjan. And that is how Vidur was trying to convince him. And finally he could convince, but yet because of his attachment he could not get the full benefit of getting the final liberation, but he could be liberated. So this is the quality of a preacher, to extract the right approach so that one can easily understand. That's why I took this approach of describing the story of Puranjana so that people can easily understand and the depth of the meaning. So it's very, very interesting. And you will see few chapters will tell us how you explain that, how Narad Muni took all the trouble sorry, to convince person like like Prachin Barisha, who is very, very much attached to the karma kanda activities. He is happy, but that is not the ultimate goal. So to understand the ultimate goal of life, Narad Muni has to take this turn to make him understand the story of Puranjana. So that is what I understood. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for the very nice class. Particularly, the point is very nice. You have pointed out why the people in this material world who are generally happy, so-called in happiness, it is very difficult for them to get interested in higher taste of spiritual activity, because they feel that they are happy. And in fact, in Bhagavad Gita also it is mentioned that if you can recollect, it is chapter 14 and verse 6. It is told about the people in the mode of goodness, and it says that they are they have got the knowledge, and they are normally well placed in the society. Normally, because of their knowledge, they know what it is, but because they are happy with their present condition, and they do not like to be elevated to the spiritual things. So that is also a bondage in one sense. And for a people like Narad Muni has to convince, or the preachers has to convince him that this is a temporary things, and what he is thinking, he is peaceful and happy. This happiness is temporary; it can go anytime. And also, the spiritual happiness is much more higher taste, as you have nicely told. From a bodily concept to a spiritual concept is very difficult for the material people to understand, and so the preacher's duties becomes very difficult. And Narad Muni was able to convince King Puranjan that what he is doing, he might be doing well what he is thinking, but that will not give him that will not give him the purpose of human life, which is a bit higher test, to a higher responsibility, and one has to do that only through spiritual activities or spiritual service to the Supreme Lord. And Narad Muni was able to do it, and it is our responsibility. And Prabhupada has also told that he has created Krishna ISKCON also for that, so that we can convince the people who, even for everybody, of course, but particularly for those who thinks that they do not need anything because they are happy with their present condition, they don't require the importance of Krishna in their life. And we have to tell them that it is a material existence and it is very temporary, and they have to come back to the cycle of birth and death again and again if they do not resolve this problem of life, which in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has told Karpanna Dosh. Arjuna has realized that with all the facilities of human life, if we do not solve this problem of life now, then we can never do that. It will come only after a long time, after many cycles of birth and death, millions and millions. So we have got this human form of life. We should take best advantage. We should take most use of it, so that at the end of this life we do not come back to this material world again. And that is the highest happiness, by serving the Krishna, and which is no comparison with the material happiness. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Okay, any other comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam, this is Tulsi Sevia. Thank you very much for a very nice class, Prabhu. So many points. More than anything, I felt he is preaching. But Narad Muni is not only preaching to Prachina Parishad King, but he's also preaching to all of us. Many times we think we are the preacher, but actually we are the preached. We have to change ourselves first. So for me, this was a very big takeaway from today's class. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, wonderful class. I think it's just so much inspiring for preachers. Thank you very much. I actually will ask all the Hamilton devotees to listen to this lecture again.
Relieve Krishna's anxiety. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments?
Prabhuji, it appears there is no other person to make comments, so we can conclude the class now. Thank you very much.
Utarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Jai. Suhrit Krishna Prabhu ki
jai.
jai.
Hare Hare Bol. All Krishna